The sunrise in Baldur's Gate is at first a slow affair. Denied its warming rays of golden light by the high stone walls on its eastern side, the harbor city is a chilly pool of clammy fog for most of your traditional morning, with large parts of the city obscured in deep pools of shadow. You find yourselves in one such shadowy place on this morning, the bustle of the city already well underway, punctuated by the barking call of a street-side vendor for the Baldur's Mouth, the official newspaper of the city. And you can hear him shouting all sorts of different headlines and parts of the paper. Grand Duke Abdel Adrian slain in the wide, interred in the high city. Sumptuary laws punch downward, allow fattest birds to puff plumage. Fist foiled, city funds procured by thieves. And so on.
City funds procured by thieves. Do I know about this?
The robbery of Nat Thankle.
Oh, yeah. right. Okay, that's what it was.
The guild was able to
do
their heist without a hitch, even though we didn't help them.
Because
I think.
despite everybody's opinion, because we were hailed as heroes, we're actually nobodies.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we're not nobodies. We're somebodies. We're just somebodies without the balls to back it up.
The word you're looking for is pawns.
Yes. Yeah.
It does appear there was some misunderstanding because of how things went down in the wide, and the assumption has been made that the four of you are a much bigger deal than you actually are.
Right. Yeah, you mentioned that last time. I have a question, something that I could not remember. I know we had, I think it was members of the Watch with us when we went to the Low Lantern, right?
Yep.
The people that we didn't take care of personally, that are responsible for killing our friend Nemea, what happened to them?
They probably were imprisoned, and a number of them were probably executed.
Okay.
Dope.
When they were done beating up old people.
Yeah.
Yeah. The people from the Watch certainly weren't executed. They didn't give a shit. So it is on this morning you find yourselves, and you know that where we left off, you had basically a day off from your objectives working for Ulder Ravengard to do whatever you wanted to, and basically you took that time to rest and recuperate from your fatal injury. As well as collect information
from the
library. Information that proved to be somewhat useful in terms of learning more about what it means to be related to Baal. And now you find yourselves basically called into duty once again to meet with Ulder Ravengard and see what is next on the agenda.
And now he is setting up shop here, right?
Yes, he's moved into the Sea Tower of Balderon. It is basically the most protected part of the city. It's a keep that is several stories high, with big towers on each of the 4 points and some anti-ship weaponry up there as like a last defense in case they're attacked by pirates.
What can I say below the bridge and just lean there?
They're the good guys.
Oh, never mind then.
Previously, his base of operations had been the tower that's on the center of the Worm's Crossing, the center of the drawbridge. Basically, when the drawbridge goes up, the tower remains in place and the two bridges get drawn upwards to allow larger ships to pass. It's really unpleasant for the people who live in the bridge district because anything that is easily knocked off is knocked off when the bridge is drawn, and they are not allowed to use sturdy building materials. It is a very temporary housing kind of thing because in an emergency, they want to slough all that shit off into the water.
It's all refrigerator boxes. And...
Pretty much, yeah. Well, it's a shanty town. It's people who can't afford to live in the real city. It's people too poor to live in other parts of the outer city.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good at all. But you are expected to meet with Ulder Ravengard. You actually arouse yourselves, in the outer city, just outside of the Hanged Girl Brewery.
That's where you work, right?
Yes.
Are you the hung girl?
I don't know. Maybe you need to get to know me first. No, it's like it's like a very gruesome sign. It is like a sign of like just.
Is it the silhouette literally of a hanging girl? This is the hanging girl. Like...
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty gruesome.
Yeah, that's it.
I drink there.
Yeah, well, you probably have.
It's a craft brewery, so, there's not a lot of people around.
But the beer costs $8 a glass.
And all the good logos are taken.
$70 for a growler. It's a bargain.
So figure you guys were out and about pretty late last night. It's probably close to 9 or 10 a.m. by the time you're actually aroused from your slumber.
those late nights at the library, you can't beat them.
Well, the library's in the upper city.
True.
It's a long haul
Yeah.
back home at that point. You wake up, and I assume that you are all probably heading on your way to go report to Ulder Ravengard, since he's currently your most supported benefactor.
Yep, that's the only one I have going for me. So
Fist away.
Fist away! Alright. Along the way to Ulder Ravengard's tower, you do see that the Flaming Fist is out in force, and they are forming up into posses to try and crack down on this recent bit of vandalism. Flaming Fist are not sending out 1 or 2 man patrols anymore. These are like 4 or 5 man teams that appear to be specially selected with like a volunteer to repair the vandalism and a bunch of grade A ass kickers to shake people down and try to find the vandals.
or at least protect the guy who's cleaning the vandalism.
That's part of it, and some of it seems altruistic, but for the most part it's giving guys who are already kind of tough muscleheads an excuse to go out and beat on people who don't really necessarily deserve it.
Yep.
And so there are some beefy Flaming Fist guys just kind of going around shaking down people who may or may not be guilty of anything. And at the most, probably only guilty of like knowing who might be vandalizing something somewhere with a message that most of the people in the city agree with anyway. Other than that, let's see. Whoever's first, roll a d20 for me.
12.
Well,
We're all dead. Reroll.
Yeah. Thanks, Paul.
That's what I
That's
do.
fun.
I was going to make a joke about it. I went to the library and I checked out 1,001 genitalia jokes for this adventure because I feel we're going to be needing them.
So along your way, you actually have to come in from the outer city. You were in Tumbledown, right?
I'm in Southwood.
Oh, you're in Southfoot.
Southwood is where
You're
the
like, where the hell?
Oh
So
my
it's a
God,
long
yeah.
fucking hall.
Yeah.
So you come all the way through here, and then the best way to get to the sea tower is to cut across the harbor once you're actually into the city.
I have a question. We're traveling through the same toll gate that Ass-Face McGee.
Nant?
Fangle.
Yeah. Is he still working there?
He is, but he appears to be way toning down the shit that he was doing. It would appear he at least in some small way learned his lesson.
Oh, good.
He was probably afraid for his life. Getting to the sea tower, you have to cut through the harbor, and along the way, you pass by the temple to Umberlee. And those of you in the know, any sort of religious knowledge whatsoever, know that Umberlee is also called the Bitch Queen of the Sea.
Oh!
She is the goddess of tempest and disaster. Very evil goddess who basically reigns over smashing ships on the ocean and causing great storms that maroon sailors. And it's a very popular temple in Baldur's Gate because the prevailing belief is that that happens to sailors who don't show enough reverence for the goddess. And so they come and like give a tithe of their earnings or like a sacrifice of a captured pirate or something like that, and the Temple of Umberlee does whatever they care to do with whatever is given to them. It's a very strange temple because you're not allowed to go inside for a sermon. You actually provide what you have to the priestesses who wait for you at the door, and you just check it in and leave. Sort of like going to pick up a package at the post office. You're not allowed in there. What they do beyond those closed doors is a mystery. They tend to take in women who have husbands who've been lost at sea or have lost their children through like miscarriages. And they don't have anywhere else to turn, and they become priestesses of Umberlee, and generally they are rather sour from their life's experiences already, so they have a reputation for being very snippy and rude, condescending and snotty.
And what's going on there as we're passing by?
There is an enormous amount of people who appear to be in line to provide their offerings. It looks like a lot of the sailors have decided it's probably a good idea, since the city's a little fucked up right now, to turn in everything they've got for the Bitch Queen's blessing and go to sea, because it's probably safer than being in the city right now.
Wow, it's really that tore up, huh?
These guys at least seem to think so.
It's now a buyer's market, though, so now's the time. So
They have...
Real estate speculation is not one of Dragomir's strong suits.
the guys who own and operate ships are the same guys who aren't allowed to wear jewelry or colored clothes.
So they're just looking to go someplace where they can flaunt their beautiful plumage.
They're looking to go anywhere that doesn't punch down on the people that make the city work. Without the merchant's coin, the city doesn't operate, regardless of what the patriarchs think.
the law is dumb, but geez, just so you can't wear purple, big damn deal.
Well, it's no jewelry, no outward displays of wealth via clothing, so certain colors, fabrics, cuts. Everyone
guys-
is in beige.
Yeah.
Well,
and some of these
that's
guys
just
would
like
have to
they're just
travel.
like everybody outside the city, so nothing but beige. So hey, whatever.
Well, a big part of it is that they're enforcing it on the spot with no prior warning. So people are in town and they're like, I'm literally wearing the clothes on my back. And they say, you can't do that. And they're like, I'd have to walk home in the nude. And they're like, you can't do that either. So I guess you're going to jail.
Nice.
So it's a way to arrest people, like, for the sake of causing trouble, basically.
Basically, yeah. A way for the rich people to remind everyone else they're not rich, no matter what they think.
Okay.
You see this sort of grim spectacle. It's probably 100 sailors that are waiting in line to speak with the priestesses who are just being really snotty, taking whatever they can. Sometimes it's a live captive. It's a pretty skeevy sort of organization, but one that is a commonly accepted and necessary part of the operation of Baldur's Gate. Because without appeasing the bitch queen of the sea, you used to say a hurricane doesn't blow in and ruin the city. And so far it's worked.
You should just put a slot like Blockbuster. Just shove in your sacrifice here.
They actually do have a gold slot for after hours.
Nice.
But a lot of what they're offering are like creatures, not cash.
Ye old Dropbox.
And if you force a creature through the gold slot, it's just not worth anything to the bitch queen.
Yeah, it's not really very helpful at that point. It's already been a sacrifice and not for her. So at that point, you were able to walk past this without any sort of interference. These people are conducting regular daily business, and you arrive at the Sea Tower of Balderon, where you are able to present your silver brooches that were provided to you by Marshal Ulder Ravengard, and you are permitted entry into the tower. You may recall that below you are the armory and prison, and above you are all of the barracks, and at the very top is Ravengard's office. When you arrive at Ravengard's office, he's being attended to by a couple of information dispensers, guys who work for the Fist who are collecting the word on the street and providing to him data from guys who are out in the field. It appears that he's got a lot on his plate right now from outside of the city, not just within, and he's just trying to deal with everything at the same time. And at the same time as that, one of the representatives is somebody from the Parliament of Peers, who is consulting him on matters political outside of his domain as a Flaming Fist operator, because one of the commonly accepted things in the city of Baldur's Gate is that one of the four dukes represents the interests of the Flaming Fist.
Okay.
And Abdel Adrian previously had been the High Marshal of the Fist. With his death, there's a vacancy both in that position and as a duke. And while they haven't crowned a fourth duke yet, there is a prevailing assumption around the city that that's Ulder Ravengard's position to lose because he's the guy in charge of the Fist right now.
Right.
And so a member of the Parliament of Peers is here to pick his brain on his opinions on political matters, and though he can't officially cast a vote, the Parliament of Peers wants to be on his good side because they are generally considered the people who don't have as much power as the three actual dukes do. And so they want to have some faction, something that bolsters their interests. It appears to be way too much for Ulder Ravengard. He is answering 20,000 things at one time, signing documents he barely has a moment to read when you were led into his office. And at that moment, the political person keeps talking, but all the Flaming Fist people stop, and he holds a hand up to shush the person from the Parliament of Peers. This meeting's adjourned. We'll resume in 25 minutes. Thank you. And they all disappear off. The Parliament of Peers guy looks very butthurt about this.
Yeah.
Storms off into a side chamber, and he waves you over to his desk, and he takes a seat in a large creaky wooden chair and sort of tenses his fingers up.
I give him like a military salute of some kind.
He gives you a perfunctory nod. He's basically not in the mood for that kind of shit. He looks very stressed out. And it looks like he's had a lot heaped on him all at once, and he's not comfortable with everything being asked of him right now. He's working on learning how to do all the things he's supposed to do. But he's doing two different new jobs for him, and one of them he doesn't even technically have the title yet.
Mm-hmm.
So he looks over the four of you and gestures to... he's got like an overstuffed couch on one wall, and then there's two wooden chairs in front of his desk.
On the couch, immediately. But like perched on the edge of the couch where you're like sitting, but not really sitting on the arm.
Sort of uptight, yeah.
Trying to look cool though.
He waits for anybody who wants to take a seat, and he says the reality is that the vandalism has grown out of control, and it's enough to deal with all of the crime on the streets without also having to combat anti-Fist sentiment in the lower city, something I never thought we'd need to deal with. You would think the lower city would be appreciative of our efforts to keep criminals out and keep the patriarchs up in their high walls and high castles. Either way, it needs to be stopped. I believe that it probably originates from the dock houses where the working class operate. A lot of the folks there have ties to the guild, gambling debts and the like. And I really need somebody to shake it down and remind them that authority is a presence in Baldur's Gate. Maybe I can't win their hearts and minds, but at the very least, we can stem the tide of vandalism and remind them that we do have the power to prevent catastrophes, unlike the Watch. It says the outer city is a bit out of our control at the moment. If we can't control things in the lower city, it'd be difficult to branch out outside of the walls. Would you assist me in attending to these matters?
Is it at all possible that you can give the people some time to adjust to the new law? This was enacted on the spot. You can't blame people for having nothing else but the clothes on their back and then being arrested for charges of public indecency when those clothes are taken away.
He says, the respect to the fist is tied to the respect they've earned from the patriarchs. The patriarchs want us to enforce the law. I don't wish to enforce that law. It is the law of the land and my hands are tied. However, I would encourage you to enforce our other interests so that I don't have to ask you to enforce an unjust law. I believe that if we stem the vandalism, that will buy the time that is needed for these people to find ways to adhere to an unjust law long enough for it to blow over and for these ridiculous things to be swept aside. And he sort of sighs and he looks sort of wistfully out the window and he says, when they make an official appointment of a fourth duke, and he sort of rolls his eyes, I believe it would be no small thing to revoke the sumptuary laws. Until that time, we are beholden to enforce it.
Have we seen this graffiti ourselves?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's all over the city.
Yeah.
Is it a specific pattern, or is it just random people saying "F you"? I mean, it's not like
it basically
it's
seems
like a V for Vendetta symbol, or there's no like
no,
special
there's no
symbology
like
or anything.
recurring symbols. It doesn't seem like a conspiracy thing.
Mhm.
It's pissed off people with paintbrushes.
Nice.
If it's not possible to not enforce the sumptuary laws, is it possible to not use physical violence on those not committing vandalism?
He says, with people riled up the way they are right now, no. It's more of a self-defense thing at this point. Those of us who are going out to clean up the vandalism have been under attack by frustrated lower city, particularly the folks who work among the harbor and shipping districts. The reality is that they are going to strike at us and we must retaliate.
Does this jive with what we saw in the outer city, or is it like
You
they're...
give some authority to a bunch of random people and some of them will use it well and some of them won't.
Mhm.
And what you've seen is a pretty equal mix of both. Some of these people are just meatheads who are out there to cause trouble because now they have the ability to go cause trouble.
Mhm.
Some of them are out there to actually act as protectors, and in some cases are baited by people who are like throwing vegetables and stuff at them. You know, the usual ways that people rebel.
What is punishment for graffiti?
Imprisonment in the sea tower.
For how long?
A 10-day, maybe more.
It's small punishment.
That's not so bad.
We round up rabble. We make show. People go home. Overzealous flaming fist do no harm.
Do I know what the prison looks like? Like, is it... I mean, obviously, it's a prison. It's not a 5-star hotel. But, like, is it better... like, drier, more regular food and that kind of thing than people who are in the outer city are accustomed to?
It's a prison, so it's unpleasant.
It's not
but
pleasant, but it's not the outer city.
It's honestly, it's probably better than a lot of places you could live in the outer city. It's in the basement of the sea tower of Balderon, which means it's constantly under the impact of ocean spray, making its way in through the delta just up the way. Because of that, there is some very kind of lame punishment to being there, which is to say it's like, oh no, there's salt water everywhere, so my skin gets dry. Like, it's not pleasant. You're not getting cream. You'll probably crack your knuckles and stuff like that. But, like, they're not starving people.
Yeah, it's not like ye olde medieval dungeon.
No, they're thrown in the Tower of London. This
Baldur's
is,
Gate
yeah.
communist prison.
this is a
The
problem.
Welcome
volume
to
and hair
your
will be
dungeon.
amazing.
It's designed to be a way to rehabilitate criminals, and in that respect, they feed them, and they keep them from freezing to death, but they
Yeah.
make it very unpleasant.
You're not going to die in the prison.
Some people do, but those people are usually ill from something else before they're even put
Yeah,
in.
but it's not like going to prison is
They
going
don't throw away the
to
key.
make you sick.
Yeah.
Seems like it's not an unreasonable thing to do.
Yeah.
This is not for us to do. We are not mob control.
Well, speak for yourself. I am mob control.
Even you have bigger things that you should be striving for. Even you, my big thug friend.
I don't know. I'm looking at level 1 Dragomir going, nope, this is right in my wheelhouse.
He says,
I mean, this is a, there's no pattern, there's no organization to this. It's the entire city is irritated. I don't know what you expect the four of us to do, other than some token. Let's go. In the last 2 days, I've seen enough old men get punched by city watchmen because they were unhappy. I don't really need to do that myself. It would be a drop in the bucket.
he says, I'll remind you, I don't represent the City Watch. I find their tactics to be disagreeable at best and disgusting at worst. The Fist doesn't stand for that. The Fist does stand for providing order where there is none, and currently things are chaotic. We need people who can go down and solve a problem by handling it without fatalities.
Does seem better for us to handle.
Well, and as you did say, Marshal Ravengard, you don't necessarily agree with this sumptuary laws, and you are up for quite the promotion. And, I mean, the Fist looking really good right now would do a lot to put him in that position.
He says, I wouldn't wish to give the impression that this is for anything less than the people of Baldur's Gate. However, the appointment of a fourth Duke is what it will take for the sumptuary laws to be lost to the history of the city once again.
Exactly. Who better who better has the interests of the people than you? So I think it would be well within our purview to, put a couple people away for a week and a half and let things quiet down a bit and let someone else with a little bit more pull some laws that don't necessarily make very much sense, and nor do they very much reflect justice, away.
Marshal Ravengard, if it is not uncouth to ask of you, because I do not intend to insult you in any way, but when you say the people of Baldur's Gate, which people do you mean?
He says, I understand that you are representative of those outside of the walls. And they are part of our focus as well. In our very immediate future, we need to contain things within these walls first. I won't insult your intelligence. I'm not going to tell you that we'll take care of the outer city right away. But without handling things inside of the walls, we can't approach a problem outside of the walls.
Understood.
Theodosius, it seems that if we do not take this task, the Marshal will find someone else to do it. They may be less suited than you and I.
I understand. I am willing to do this task for the good of the people of Baldur's Gate. I only want to have some sort of ability, if not to trust, then to hope that by helping Marshal Ravengard, we are truly helping all of the people of Baldur's Gate. I will do it without hesitation. But recent events and not so recent events, understandably, I should hope, have me rather nervous of those in power.
Well, let's run our way.
Mm-hmm.
Guess we know what's next.
Let's go catch some bad guys.
Dark and dark.
So yeah, he says the subduing. Oh, is he very chaotic good?
He's very 23 years old.
I wrote lawful libertarian on my,
Oh.
it's my new alignment because
God.
I just don't like any of these.
He's like Marshall.
None of these leaders are. But I don't say that anymore. But.
He says the act of apprehension can be one performed by my Blaze and his associates, and he gestures to one of the side chambers. At this point, you picked up that Blaze is a rank in the Flaming Fist, basically equivalent to like a lieutenant. He says, what I really need is for someone to make a physical presence, subdue those who would do harm to our operatives, and allow one of our apprehenders to apprehend. In a visual way. We don't want to make it a thing that we do throughout the city. We want to make a display so the people of the city know not to do what they're doing. He says, if I can trust you to do this, then you yourselves may have a greater commission among our ranks. He says, currently you're regarded as a gauntlet position. But we would bestow upon you the rank of Flame, which is basically like a lieutenant.
Flame on!
You know, like a sergeant or lieutenant.
Okay,
somewhere
cool,
in
Johnny
that
Storm.
one tier below the Blaze that he's deploying to basically follow you as a cleanup crew.
Gotcha.
He says the commission does come with certain responsibilities, but it also comes with a paid wage and a number of benefits throughout the city. But the number one thing is it would include the wage, which would be 60 gold per 10 day.
Ooh.
Oh, which is like
Even libertarians like money.
4 times as much as what we're getting currently,
it's,
right?
it's an officer's
Habits.
wage. Yeah. This is not like 18-year-olds sign up for the Fist. This is like career soldiers in their 20s.
So if we do this, we get the promotion.
Yes.
Yep. He basically gives you a promotion now,
Mm-hmm.
expecting you'll perform your duty.
Yes.
Senior executive bartender.
Can if this is the end of our meeting with the marshal, can we have a little aside on like the elevator ride down or something, a little private party chat?
It's actually a long spiral staircase,
Mm-hmm.
but there's
I didn't expect an actual elevator.
it echoes a little bit, but it's if you're whispering, people probably won't hear the details.
Dragomir Whisper?
Yeah, I picture you as a single decibel guy. That same, straight,
I whisper very quietly, my friend.
Oh, you're doing so good. I love it.
But no, he will make a point of at least, trying to get the message across that if we are trusted with this, then we can make sure that the right people are punished the right way, as opposed to someone who is less scrupulous attacking people and using violence where violence is not needed against people who are not needed to be hurt.
Yeah.
I trust you and I to handle this matter well.
Mm-hmm. So out of character, Theo is on board with the ends. He's just not sure if the means justify the ends.
We need to find a way to just talk to the people and ask them to stop and clean up their own mess and not. I am not bringing the hammer down on the peasantry for this. I am just not doing it.
You're not in with the Fist, right?
I am.
You
I
have a
am.
pin
I am an undercover.
We all have pins.
What do they
Okay.
call it?
Oh, undercover cop?
I'm undercover.
Yeah,
He
you're
used a
using
term-
plain clothes
undercover.
operative.
Yeah.
He used a term that last game that
Yeah,
I
plain clothes operative.
It was something like that.
Well, if anybody's suited to that, it's you. Spreading the word that the
Well,
Fist is not...
I did a great job, convincing the guild to not to do what they ended up doing, which probably only made the situation worse.
Yeah.
Fair, but...
So it's not my idiom. My idiom is shooting things in the neck, and this is not what I want to do with these people.
Now, presumably there are a bunch of people, guilty otherwise, who may, have information that have already been locked up in the base of the sea tower, right?
Yep.
And this is somewhat out of character because I'm not sure Dragomir is shrewd enough to come up with this plan. But if we pick the right person
Mm-hmm.
and
obviously it's got to be somebody who needs to go to jail because Dragonbeard's not going to lock up somebody who's innocent.
Yeah.
But make sort of a bargain with them.
Mm-hmm.
Then we can get an inside man in the jail and get information out of the people who have already been locked up who may not be willing to talk to the Flaming Fist guys.
I'm not sure I follow.
So let's find a guy that's not only guilty of vandalism, but guilty of other shit.
Mm-hmm.
And we make a plea bargain with him and say, hey, listen, we're only going to send you to jail for the 10-day for the vandalism. But while you're in there, we need you to get information from the other people who locked up and we'll talk to
Okay,
us.
so we're going to get you on the vandalism, not the shoplifting.
Right. That way we can lock up somebody for vandalism. We can make the show that Ulder Ravengard wants, or Ravengard wants. And we can also keep pursuing our ball spawn trail.
Period.
Yeah.
Cradle them gently.
Yes. We can keep spawning balls in the jail.
Were
prison riot.
were we given the idea that we have to make only one, or like, is it like a?
I don't think the number of people is as important as the show we put on.
He kind of expects you to just like go to a bar in the harbor,
Make a big deal.
pick a fight basically with whoever seems like they know something, make a big show of force without killing anyone, apprehend everybody who's involved in the altercation, and go home.
Okay, well, Zanzer is our plainclothes man.
He's in Mufti.
If we send
It's a real term.
Zanzer,
It's a term. It's real. MUFTI. It's in crosswords.
Okay.
if we send Zanzer into the bar to talk shit about the Flaming Fist,
That
and
does seem like right up his alley.
yeah, and see who in the crowd is maybe the most outspoken or says something when they're wrapped up. Let's do a sting.
Yeah. You can be the agitator.
Well, I'm just waiting for him to be in there being like, man, the fist sucks.
I got fisted this morning and it was terrible.
hate it."
He's looking
Fisted
at
me twice last night. It was wonderful.
he's looking at his hand. Act normally.
Disappointed!
So it is kind of funny that if you look at the color of Zanzer's clothespin, so I intentionally had purple because he actually has, because I totally stole the concept from some art that I found on the internet for this guy.
That's how D&D works, man. That's the right way to do it.
So he actually has a let's see if I can find it. I have it here somewhere. All right, I lost it. Oh no, it's right here. He's got purple
Yeah.
on parts of him. So I probably covered it up because I didn't even think about it until
Yeah.
just now.
More like a big brown cloak over it or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean,
A
also
duster.
it raises the question. Like I used the example when we were talking about sumptuary laws last time that historically in our world when they were enacted, it was often about purple because purple was a difficult and expensive dye to manufacture. I don't know if that's something that's specifically.
White or
It does
black,
hold
it's
weight
fine.
in Baldur's Gate as well. Yeah,
Okay.
purple is an expensive color, and royal blue is called royal blue for
a
a reason.
reason,
It's expensive.
Red too,
Right.
probably.
In my headcanon on this
Yeah,
guy
yellow.
was that this
Well,
was
I
the
can't
colors
take my
of his
skin
regiment
off,
or something
so-
when he was a soldier. So he just kept.
I can.
Just like a
my
bunny
skin
rabbit.
or your skin?
Foreskin.
It's not hard enough.
3 skin?
Don't take your foreskin off. It's not good.
I'm also Moyle. I carry hand axe for a reason.
Oh.
I just nip the tip.
I don't even have a dick and that hurts.
All right.
So we're going to do a sting in a bar. A bar sting. We're gonna,
The bar sting.
we're
That's
gonna,
what happens when you get,
Wang jangled.
yeah.
so you two are
I don't
going
like
to.
this plan at all.
Well, do you have a better one?
I'm just gonna lure some guy. Oh god, this sucks.
Oh, come on, Zans. It'll be a great time.
I will go with your plan if you can think of a better one.
We catch a guy in the act. Let's start with catching somebody in the act. Somebody who was actually doing it.
Whoa!
The vandalism.
It's a city that's like a mile and a half across.
You discuss.
And if it's happening all over the place, it shouldn't be too hard.
Well, that's what you'd think. But also, like...
Actually, I did want to ask Ravengard if it was happening in more, somewhere more specific than just generally, or, if
The
there's
lower city appears to be what his concern is. The impression is it's happening all over the city.
The
But the
lower city is,
huge.
it's a square mile.
Yeah.
It's a big space.
I didn't know if one of these small...
Because the lower city is the epicenter of where people are getting picked on, because that's where the merchants
I just
live.
didn't know if there was one of these 5 neighborhoods or 6
I
neighborhoods.
mean, if I had to guess, and this is just an educated guess, it's probably farther away from the harbor and closer to the upper city because this is probably mostly like working class people who don't have purple to wear anyway.
Mhm.
It's the merchants who want to live far away from the stink of the water that are probably going to be.
Merchants might be closer to the water because it's all sea stuff.
Yeah.
I got some pretty banging investigation. I could walk around and just like start touching graffiti until I find something that's wet and see.
It's blood.
That's blood, guys. That's blood.
No, you have work herpes. Oh
Is
yeah, I
this
think
whiskey
investigation
or
seems like a good place to start.
It's perfume.
It's perfume.
So, all right. So I'm on board with catching somebody in the act. There's no problem there.
I have a proficiency in investigation too, so maybe between the two.
So the thing is, like, he's really what he's really counting on is the show.
The show.
He wants the pageantry.
Well, that's why.
He doesn't want one person to get arrested. He wants us to make a big show in one of the bars, so it's a deterrent towards everyone else. Like, here are the heroes of Baldur's Gate coming to bust your ass for graffiti.
That's exactly what he has in
Well,
mind.
if we find some fresh graffiti, like maybe it's just an assumption that I'm making, but like people who are doing graffiti probably want to brag to their buddies that they're doing graffiti. So we find some white graffiti, go to the nearest tavern and try to see what's up.
I mean, I think we could do that regardless of whether it's fresh or not. That was my idea with the sting. Like, have Zanzer go in and, like, make a claim towards, like, the most outlandish whatever graffiti. If someone calls him on it and is like, you didn't do that, I did.
Well, it sounds like all of our plans begin with letting these two use their investigation to try and find the actual people, the vandals that we're looking for.
Yeah. Well, we gotta get to the... We're supposed to be in the dock bar, so that's where Ravengard wants us to.
Oh, so he had a bar in mind. I guess I missed that part.
One of the bars
He
at
had
the
like
docks.
a district in mind,
Yeah.
and there are a number of bars in it, and he doesn't really have a preference to where you start. He just wants to make sure it's a public spectacle.
Can we go back to the Low Lantern? Because I've got a score to settle over there.
You could, except it's been closed. You should.
Yeah.
You personally closed it, actually.
So now I'm on it again. Let's
Well, that actually might be interesting because there's probably stuff around there that they're probably. Of course, the Fist wasn't involved in that one.
The Fist was marginally involved.
We were
You
involved
were involved
in it,
as
and we're part
representatives of the
Fist.
Fist.
Right. I'm
But
just
you
wondering
figure
if that would be a hotbed.
We're
of,
four
like,
fingers of
rebellion.
the fist.
if the assumption that the Low Lantern was
formed the
tied
thumb.
to... Yeah, shush. If the assumption that Silver Shield is making, that the Low Lantern was tied to the guild is true, then a bunch of guys who are more or less aligned with the guild would have to find a new bar. So if you're thinking about ways to find guys who are likely to be committing crimes, near the Low Lantern is a pretty good starting position. They gotta find a place to purvey their wares.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it seems like if we went to the next bar down the road from the Low Lantern, we'd probably end up catching a lot of the same assholes that stabbed you to death.
Or the second most Moss
really down
Isley
with that.
bar in town. Like, you're not going to go
Greedos.
from...
I mean, because then not only are we catching vandals in our net, but we're also catching murderers.
Yeah. You're not going
Like
to go...
legit murderers. They killed you.
You're not going to go from the Low Lantern to, like, one of the, like, more upscale...
You're not gonna go to the High Lantern.
No.
Clearly, way too highbrow.
No, way too highbrow. You got to
Middle
go to the
Lantern.
next...
The medium lantern.
Yeah, the Magic
The
Lantern.
next skeeziest place.
Which is the Magic Lantern. I've been there. It's gross.
It used to be great. It's great in my day.
Back in my day,
1986.
back in my day, we used asbestos in all the
Here
paints.
was up 20.
Ryan, you got 2d20 rolls
2d20s.
in order.
The first one is a 14. The second one is a nat 20.
The Icy Star.
Ooh.
Neat.
Is the next shittiest bar in town after the
Yep.
Ironically, all of the beverages are served at room temperature.
Okay, so it sounds like what we want to do is for you guys to use investigation to find some vandals who also go to hole up at the Icy Star.
Yeah,
Let's do it.
The Icy Star is actually owned, those of you who have been in the shitty parts of town, the Icy Star is owned by a warlock who actually made a pact with some dark power, maybe 100 years ago. And he's long since dead. But his offspring actually run the Icy Star and is named for the entity with which that warlock formed a pact.
gross.
And
things.
Icy Star.
So, and actually, this is smart. I like what we're doing because we've been looking at this thing frontwards instead of backwards the way we should have been looking. We shouldn't have been looking at the crime and then finding where they go hole up. We should be looking at the bar that's full of the worst fucking people that are probably guilty of a bunch of other shit, and then just using vandalism as our ticket through the door. And that way we won't feel so bad about the people that we're rounding up and putting in jail.
Yeah, my point exactly. The next skeeziest bar.
Right. I love it.
Someone in there has probably done a vandalism, and they're probably as smart as we are.
So, it sounds like we want to do some investigating first.
All right.
That end of the table.
Please provide your investigation and tell me what you're doing.
Well, that's
Uh-oh.
a 7. So I can't see 2 feet in front of my own face.
I don't know. I guess I'm just looking for shifty people in the crowd. I guess see who might be suspiciously look like they're doing something.
Okay.
Oh, you know what? I can help.
It's 17, 18.
Here is a common dockside tavern. Ignore all the nomenclature in the corner. I'm only using the map. But you have arrived in this tavern, and there are a number of people here. First off, you recognize a couple of faces from the Low Lantern.
Of course we do.
That was a good
They
find.
got black eyes, missing teeth.
All right, I got to stop right there. My main concern is what is with the snakes coming out of the vent?
Oh, that's just Steve.
What are they doing to these pigs?
I don't know, but I'm guessing that's ketchup.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks... I don't know what it looks
But
like
really,
anymore.
snakes. What's with the snake?
Well,
does it
there's
have to be
pig
snakes?
butts over there, too.
Yeah, they're hanging from the ceiling. It's the
Yeah.
kitchen.
That's the Sexatorium.
Well, that's so a little lay of the land here. Because
yes, they are.
now you've called me out. The main front doors are over here, and you enter into the actual tap room. Back over here is a private area. It's actually just a raised platform, but it's secluded off for like private meetings.
The VIP area.
Somebody
parties.
once upon a time killed a Medusa and mounted her head over here because there was a big argument that came up in the bar about whether you beheaded the Medusa if it still turned you to stone. And the guy was like, "No, it doesn't. I'll show you." So they had it stuffed and mounted.
And all these seats are filled with statues now?
No. There are, in fact, no statues there. This is like a private kitchen for things like when you order a poo-poo platter and they bring you the little like torch that everyone holds their food over. It's like that. This is a storeroom for casks of ale and like dried foods. And back here is like a slaughterhouse because they also have a kitchen here, so they prepare their own pork.
Bacon.
And one of the things that is an important deal in the city of Baldur's Gate is that the lower and upper city do not allow full-fledged slaughterhouses because they are noisy and smell. And so what they do is they get pigs who have been fully exsanguinated outside the city walls and bring their carcasses in to hang from hooks so that they can cut what they need for their various meals and routines. And it's actually also a private apartment, which you can't see because it's cut off from me zooming in. But the owners live out back.
Like here.
Yeah, that's where their couch is, and it's not a break room. That's actually where they live.
Yeah.
It's a ficus.
It's Burn the Fern, and that's it.
Fernie Sanders.
And this really is Cargo Street. That's canonical. It really is actually on Cargo Street, which is one of the basically sprawls that goes from the docks directly through the route to the wide, because people who are shipping in goods to sell in the wide have to come down to Cargo Street to do it. And if you put yourself into the tavern to scope it out, Zanzer, you seem like you're the first person going in to get a beat on what's up. So please feel free to put your mini somewhere in the tavern.
So, did my investigation kind of suggest that there's a seedier group?
Oh yeah,
Sitting
your
somewhere else
investigation
other
was
than this?
banging, but I want to know where you're standing before I tell you what you see.
Well, I'm just... So my goal was to like come in, take a quick beat of the room and sort of find a seat that might be nearest the worst people.
So the really skeezy bastards
Like on the
are
bar, along the bar if possible.
way over here. There's like some live music, and the guys you recognize from the low lantern are actually here, right in front of the stage.
They want to be able to have the music drown them out while they talk about criminal shit.
Anyway, here's Wonderwall.
Let's just murder the place.
How many fireball spells you got?
all of a sudden you're on board. Like you were all up in the air about it until the guy was a Oasis cover band. Then you're like, nope, burn this place to the fucking ground.
I was just hoping it was actually one of the Gallagher brothers, and that was all set to murder.
It's actually just Gallagher. He's hitting one.
Still on board.
They're all sitting there in ponchos.
Any of the vandalism in Watermelon Guts? Just that would give us a clue.
Before Theo goes in, he's going to take the blanket from his bedroll and basically turn it into a makeshift hood.
Okay.
And like do the sort of like desert country thing, you know. I can see your face, not when I go like this. He's going to try to disguise himself in a non-suspicious way, just sort of obscure his identity, and he'll look at Nemea and like.
All right.
So eventually I'll come in and clop right there. And
You get your chance to get a good lay of the land once you actually
Just
get in there.
all fabric, because you still have the gauze over your eyes, so it's just a bunch of fabric on your face.
Pulls up the.
I think Dragonair is going to wait outside because he's very noticeable, and the guys with the low lantern will recognize him. There's no way they won't. So
I want to start with Zanzer here. Zanzer, an investigation check obviously takes more than like 10 seconds. So you walk in, you get yourself a drink or whatever, you hang out at the bar for like 5 minutes, and discreetly scope the place out. During that time, you find some people you recognize. You already made the roll, then we get another one. You recognize some guys over here, as I mentioned, from the Low Lantern. And they are talking about the events of the previous 2 days. They got roughed up with the Low Lantern. They got roughed up again by the Flaming Fist. And they appear to be a source of some of the venom directed towards the law of the land here. However, in addition to that, you do hear a bunch of people here who are abuzz with the graffiti and standing up against the man for their sumptuary bullshit. A number of the people who are drinking here on this fine late afternoon are people who are shippers and make a lot of money on the harbor, and it's their livelihood, and they are quite pissed off to have to basically dress in drab. And they are upset with the patriarchs, they're annoyed with the Flaming Fist. They're actually as much or more annoyed with the outer city because they don't like being compared to them. And it's sort of just the buzz of the tavern on this evening. The bartender is a man wearing an eye patch with short blonde hair, a little bit of stubble. And he is, for what it's worth, an attentive bartender. He doesn't pry into your business at all. He makes conversation if it seems like you want to. But otherwise, he provides you with your order and leaves you the hell alone. Very quick service. And what you also hear are a number of individuals who are talking about a recent strike. You can hear that they are talking about the justice involved in teaching the basilisk a lesson.
Teaching the basilisk?
That was,
the nickname for Nant.
Nant.
Ah,
Oh,
okay.
right.
Yeah.
Sorry about that guy.
Ah, okay. All right. Yeah, nobody feels bad about him.
He does.
I don't.
He's okay. Yeah, I'm just like, so I'll get a drink and I'm gonna actually be a little loud about like, kind of maybe not necessarily pretending I'm drunk, but just pretending I'm angry. I'm like, yeah, this sumptuous stuff is horseshit, and then when I hear that they said, that the basilisk got his, I'm like, good, about damn time somebody showed that little. Yeah.
Piss Nant?
What's what?
He pissed his Nance.
If I forget,
God, what an
remind me
intolerable little
later.
scumbag.
You're going to have advantage on checks with these guys as you're basically buddying up. It's not hard to believe you. I get the feeling.
And I might even
like
pull that thing where I like kind of hold back my sleeve and hold that I'm friggin' covering up the damn color.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
I'm pissed. I'm like, now I have to friggin', I earned this tabard in the war. Now I have to friggin' give it up for these.
A couple of guys in the bar with you are
Schmuck
like, run for my friend here. And you get some serving of some sort of brown liquor poured in front of you. And the bartender comes by and gives you a tip of the head and says, "Oh, apparently your buddies here have found a new friend. Drink up." And he sort of wanders off to go tend to the other side of the bar. It is putting a pretty good read on what's going on in the room and who these guys are just pissed off and who's actually capable of a crime. And you really have narrowed it down to like the guys from the Low Lantern or the guys who are over there who are talking about the strike on Nat Thangle. And I'm assuming the two of you probably enter eventually.
Yeah.
The two of you can place yourselves.
May I have my...
David Bowie and the Light Elf Catcher. That's a throw. There you go. Because Zenzer used to be a quarterback.
Yeah.
Where are the Nanthangle people?
So the Nanto folks.
The Nantophiles.
So this is the Low Lantern.
Oh, no, that's the Low Lantern.
And these are Nantmen.
Yeah, I don't want to be near the Low Lantern
Yes,
people
well,
because I died.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna post up at this table
Very
over
nice.
here.
It actually came in a 2-pack. I gotta bring the other one over just so we can put it in circulation.
No, I'm gonna
because
put
we got a
myself
big
here,
guy, you know.
deliberately, like trying
Yeah.
to not face the corner full of people who think
Yeah.
that I'm dead.
That's almost what I expected him to look like.
Yeah, that's what I said.
And Kate, do you know where Theo is yet?
Just give me 1 minute.
Sure.
I am probably just lingering. Like, I'm assuming these are windows.
Yep.
I'm probably just like lingering outside a window, keeping an eye on my friends, ready to bust in if there's trouble.
They're the
Or when
like,
there's trouble.
the Dutch structure style windows where it's got like the cross pattern
Yeah.
of fused iron with semi-frosted glass. You can get a good idea of where light sources are inside, but details you're not going to get.
You can just listen for thunder mama.
I'll wait
that
till
was
I
my cue.
hear
That was
trouble.
my cue at the boat.
Well, either that or either I assume either Theo or Nemea will come out and be like, all right, we're ready to
party.
we're ready to rock and roll.
Kate, you're with us, Cicely.
Yeah. No, I was just going to comment that this is both the best and the worst campaign to decide to start actually taking notes on sessions.
Sorry.
It probably gets easier when we get to Avernus, I would think.
Hopefully.
A lot more linear.
I am really bad at taking notes because I am afraid that I am going to forget something. So I just have like pages and pages and pages of...
See,
More notes than I
I
do.
personally don't want to forget anything, but I'm playing an 8 intelligence character who's probably going to forget people.
Yeah. I mean, I'm at a 10, so like I'm average, but I've got 14 wisdom. So like...
Intelligence? I'm smart.
This is my fighter.
We know.
That's
I'm a
so
wizard.
We know.
Would you like to see my retainer
No,
collection?
no, honey, that's fine. Just
I got glow in a dark one, and a rainbow one, and a special one for Halloween.
God.
All right.
So my thought to both appease our party morality and Ulder Ravengard is we go in and we make our big show arresting these shitbirds for murder, and that way we can say we're letting the suspected vandals go because we've got bigger fish to fry.
Yeah.
But the show's been made, the word's out at that point. But that's just my thought. You guys.
And they are also... You said that it also seems to be that the people from the Low Lantern may also be involved in the vandalism.
It seems likely. I mean, they're criminals through and through. You know
Yeah.
that much. They might be involved with the guild, and it's a reasonable assumption the guild is behind the vandalism. Or at least encouraging it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm done with arresting, like, actual murderers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
And Dragonbeard's conscience is clear. He wants the biggest fish in the room, which is the people that killed his friend. So,
I mean,
Friendship.
maybe even we make a plea deal with, like, one of them.
one of the survivors, yeah.
One of the survivors. The other three are going to jail for murder.
One of the 4 that I don't turn into toothpaste. Yeah.
How stupid is it that I actually turned my arm to avoid burning my arm hair off from this
I did
fake
the
candle?
same thing with the bag of dice.
So you're,
I actually really like these. These are pretty cool.
you're
I like
hanging
them, yeah.
out with the people, near the people
let's
who
turn
pulled
them
out the
all on.
heist,
There
right?
you go.
Yes.
Let's get them all on.
You're-
Spicy. You know what? This guy's orange right now. Let's get him on
They
too.
pulled off a heist? What heist?
So there are 3 basically factions in this bar.
Right.
There's the people from the Low Lantern.
Right.
There are the people who are merchants who are pissed about the sumptuary laws and like
Put them all out.
may be involved in some of the vandalism. And then there are the people bragging about how the basilisk, Nate Fingal, got robbed.
Oh, but
which was the
I don't know
plan
if
with
I don't know if
Wilson.
that meant to say that they did it. I thought that meant to say that they're just glad he got robbed. I don't know if I want to jump to that conclusion.
Yeah.
Yeah, that does seem like
I'm not
ugly
taking
bomb with
action, I'm
Paul. It
just
sounds
being-
more like they were just happy it happened.
Yeah,
Okay.
but
Yeah,
like,
some of this is like mental
You're
telepathy,
lucky.
so I feel like I'm cheating a little bit, but I actually want to let all these other fuckers go. And
Yeah.
just target the murder.
yeah,
And
but
everybody else, in fact, even the Fingal haters, I want
No.
to party with them. I want
No.
to get.
no.
It's not even hot.
Alright. That is Kaylee said she's talking now.
I wasn't saying that we should arrest them. I'm taking notes of where we're
Okay.
all sitting, so I
Okay.
need something short and sweet of like who is where and what they're doing. That's why I'm saying that they're the ones that pulled off the heist.
Okay.
Because
fair
they're
enough.
talking about the heist.
So along those lines, maybe it might be a good idea, and this is again something Brian would say, maybe not necessarily Dragomir, who's not smart enough to come up with this. If you identify somebody in the room that you think is like definitely in cahoots with bigger fish that are not necessarily in this room, maybe it's a good idea to let one of those people go and then tail them after it's done to see where they go back and see if they make contact with something a little more substantial than vandals, you know?
So I was only briefly in that bar, or the boat. You guys were a lot more in that boat than I was. I only went there to try to, help, and then I couldn't because I was buttoned in. So I was going to free the lady, and then that all kind of. So I wasn't there as much as you guys were. So I was thinking if Theo is more, you got killed, so maybe you remember who killed you. So one of you two would have a better chance.
Show us on the doll where he killed you.
Everywhere. All over my body.
Wow, that's the hottest murder I've ever heard.
In my hair and on my glasses.
Got it on the ceiling.
He murdered me in my belly button. I needed to keep it.
It's still crusty.
Okay.
Don't light the whole tavern on fire. Yeah, that's right, I said it.
Yeah, go light the tavern on fire. I'm a tiefling wizard who specializes in evocation, which is basically my way of saying I like to blow shit up and light shit on fire.
Yeah. Avernus will be a weird experience for you.
Everyone's got fire resistance.
But to be fair, they also have all the other kinds of resistance, so it might be okay.
I also have fire resistance, so like I'm waiting for my opportunity to like walk through fire and be like, that like one scene in V for Vendetta.
You have fire resistance unless you are fighting Callisti.
Which will probably happen eventually.
Yeah. Way down the road. Portals and shit.
If you survive.
So, okay, so I once I come in, I feel like it's going to be like the record scratch, everything stops, and everybody turns and looks at me.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what should probably be the plan, at least to start, is you guys identify who it is I'm going up and arresting. Just point me at a bunch of bad guys, and then I'll get in there in the mix. I'll make a loud announcement that they're under arrest for vandalism, among other crimes.
Mm-hmm.
You guys jump in and help me where it's needed. Otherwise, if you guys have somebody else that you're interested in, sort of keep tabs on where it is they go once the fighting starts.
Yeah, Theo's more than willing to let minor criminals who are mostly committing crimes because they are dissatisfied with the status quo go.
Oh, yeah.
Actual murderer criminals.
Right.
I posted myself next to the door to prevent people from trying to run outside, basically.
Yeah.
How'd that work out for you last time?
I was not near the door last time.
My suggestion to you, and this is just a suggestion, is the minute fighting starts... Well, that's a good one, too. When you use the thinker. Honestly, jump up on a table the minute the fighting starts. That way you can see over people's heads and launch spells.
Yeah. I'm about to... I got some spells.
But, I mean, the thing I'm concerned about is if I go in and arrest these guys, then I am also boxed in. And I don't know if the people on this end of the bar are either going to leave or if they're going to turn on me.
Yeah.
I think I can take most of them, but...
Paul is in actual physical pain from this plan.
We have to convince everybody in the bar, that we're only after the criminals. And we have to convince the people in the bar that these are actually criminals.
Everybody in the bar is a criminal. We're in a crime bar.
No, then I'm out.
The
I'm
crime
not part of
bar.
this plan then. I'm not going to start murdering the civilians. And
So the murder
Even
thing
if they're
is,
all criminals?
they were
I'm
pretty
not
clear
doing
and
this.
explicit about don't kill anybody. They don't
Yeah.
want somebody
Yeah.
dead.
Yeah.
They want to make a show of force by arresting people.
Yeah.
And these 4, we know for a fact, were involved in her murder.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they basically want to do
Those are the only ones we're going to be attacking, unless
Yeah.
they attack us first, in which
There's
case it's only going to be enough force to get them to back off.